okayest hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is okayest hunter.
What up, everybody? Welcome to the Okayest Hunter podcast. Coming at you from the Okayest Hunter podcast studio, brought to you by Spartan Forge. Head on over to spartanforge.ai. And be sure to use code OHP if you want to save 25% off. I don't know which group it was on Facebook, but someone asked, hey, don't you Okayest Hunter guys use Spartan Forge? Can you talk about it? So we were in a group talking about, I think it was the Hunt in Common Facebook group. I don't know if you saw that or not.
No.
And they're asking like, oh, how's it compare to OnX? And I was like, oh boy. Let me tell you how it compares to OnX. That UAV feature is ridiculous. The tools that they have in there, the imagery of like even just the app icons or like that, what are they called? But like it's not icons, like the pin icons.
Yeah.
There's just more flavor to it.
It's a pretty cool app. I'm pretty happy to have access to it. That's for sure.
I was looking at my house on it, and you can scroll through the different years.
Yeah.
On the UAV feature. And I think I went as far back as like the early 2000s, but it was as recent as like a couple weeks ago. And I could literally see like the dumpster in our driveway and the bagster a couple of years ago. I was like, oh, this must be the time of year I clean my garage out like clockwork. So anyway, if you want to see weird stuff like that or like cut crops or when like cut lines are happening or whatever, the changing of the seasons, the topography or the foliage, you're going to see all that stuff on there. I know a lot of guys and gals share deer in the field.
Yeah. Or airplanes hidden in the trees.
Really? I didn't see that yet.
Yeah, that was a post.
Damn, I missed that one.
Anyway.
It's kind of like a treasure hunt. They should do I should talk to Bill. He should do a treasure hunt. If you can find this on the map, you'll win. But sometimes it's kind of fun to just go explore on there, which everyone does on a mapping application when they nerd out. We have new sponsorships that we're announcing next week because next week will be the first week of June. I know this is the first week, but it's not June yet. So stay tuned for that. Shout out to Drop Time Spirits. I love drinking their 12-point bourbon at the big Drop Time 12-point buck on the cover. Tastes delicious. And I guess that's what I got for that. Foam Fest is still on deck. I know we're not going to speak publicly about what we're trying to navigate now, but no matter what, we should be
Cross
good.
that bridge when we
That's
get there.
right. That's right. In a couple of weeks, we will see.
Don't borrow trouble yet.
How hard our lives will get or how easy they'll stay. I'm not sure.
Right.
And if you're just joining us as a first-time listener, I'm Eric. Who are you, Greg?
I'm here.
And Derek's usually with us. He's just not here today. I don't know what he's doing.
He's here with us in spirit.
Yeah, of course he is. I don't know what he's doing. I wonder what he's doing.
Stuff with the fam. It's summer, man.
That's true. It was a long weekend. Hopefully everyone had a good Memorial Day weekend and took some time to just kind of chill and hang out and relax and appreciate the freedoms that we have in this freaking country that we live in. It's pretty great. We do have a guest with us, so I'll go ahead and bring him on and bear with me as I totally botch your last name. On the line or on the live show with us, we have AJ Kazmierczak. Kazmierczak.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, hey, it's just like Smith. It's just like Smith, Black, all of those, just a couple extra letters.
Yeah, except completely not. Welcome to the How's your long weekend, man? What did you get into?
It was good. It was good. So I've got a day job, but I also co-own a coffee company, and so we were open Saturday, Sunday there. It's graduation season, so I had a cousin that actually graduated. We had her grad party. And then we were able to get some pool time in on Memorial Day, which was nice. I was starting to look transparent, almost ghost-like, and so getting some tan there and had some good drinks, spent some time with the family, and now back to the usual chaos that is prepping for deer season and total archery season and reminiscing on turkey season and all of that good stuff.
Yeah. When did you win a truck, by the way?
So that's kind of the we can call that the tipping point of what culminated into everything. So I don't know how, but somehow there's still some people that don't know about Total Archery Challenge. But I personally think it's one of the greatest single gatherings of archers across the country. So with Total Archery Challenge, they go all over the country and they have novelty shots. And one of the novelty shots is a 111-yard foam caribou. Now, if you hit that, what's called, I believe in target archery, it's called inside out, right? So you're not touching the line, but if you hit a bullseye 12 ring, no line touching, you which is about the size of a dip can, you get entered to win this truck. And I mean, this thing is rigged to the gills. Leitner Designs rack on the back. There's a hardtop tent. There's a retractable bed cover. The only FDA food grade approved tailgate cover, which is still a crazy thing from Mountain Hatch Outdoors. But that's the quote unquote skill part. Then they take everyone's name. They always do it differently, but my year they took everyone's name that ended up hitting that, wrote it down on a piece of paper, stuck that to a target, and backed their guy up to 100 yards and said, "Okay, go ahead and shoot." And who's ever named that arrow pierced, that's who ended up winning it.
What?
Wow.
It's crazy. And then even more insane is, one of my best friends actually paid for my shot because I wasn't going to shoot at it.
Dude, you're gonna get struck by lightning someday. You gotta be careful.
Listen, I've had some good fortune since then. So, I mean, if something like that were to happen, I guess I'll just take it in stride.
Yeah, except it'll turn you into like a superhuman or something like that, which that's freaking cool, man. So tell us about what you have going on. You're also known as the Coffee Viking. So tell us a little bit about you and what you have going on. And I don't know, Greg, were you going to say something before I interrupt you?
Nope, you're good.
All right. He's going to slap me again.
Yeah. So, I mean, the short bio of it, I tend to get long-winded, so cut me off whenever. But the short bio is born and raised Ohio. In college, I actually started a coffee company with my business partner, now friend, Daniel Jennings. And that's called Jennings Java. So it's based here in Columbus, Ohio, but we ship all over the place. We've shipped to undisclosed military bases, to Florida, to California, you name it. But that was obviously the coffee aspect. Always had an enjoyment and a love for coffee. And that just kind of turned into a career with that. My day job, the pay the bills jobs, something else that I am passionate about is the craft beer industry. And so I actually work sales for Nocterra Brewing Company. The Viking aspect of the Coffee Viking and, the almost alter ego, if you will, came about just because I love Norse mythology. Obviously, the long blonde hair, the blonde beard, very interested in all of those workings as well. And so a while back, I changed my Instagram to that, and it quickly became apparent that's actually kind of how people started to recognize me. And now it's just its own thing. And so I'm just running with it, that's the basis of me. The hunting aspect, I started hunting when I was 15, 16. I was a city kid, came down to high school in the country. My cousin took me under his wing, thank God, and took me hunting, and was bit from the start. And I personally just bow hunt. Nothing against gun hunters. I just personally choose to only bow hunt. Some people told me I was crazy when I went and bow hunted turkeys for the first time. They were like, you need to take a gun, but had some good friends up in Michigan that helped me out through that. And yeah, now I'm here able to actually talk with you guys, which I'm super, super stoked on. But that's kind of the short rundown of me.
I like it, man. And you got the Viking beard going on for sure. What's that show that's like, it's like a Viking show, and is it on like Showtime or HBO or one of the channels I can't afford to pay for? I forget what it's called.
Well, so there's a couple of them. I mean,
I bet it's called something you've already said.
No.
It's something I've already said?
No, Eric has already said
I don't think so.
there's a show called Vikings.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, that's the biggest one.
I mean,
There is also one called The Last Kingdom, which is pretty awesome.
Okay, I think the Vikings is probably the one I'm thinking
That's
of.
one of
Where
the
the dude has like
oldest
super
ones.
blue eyes. It's been
Yep.
around for a little while, and
Oh yeah, that's Vikings for sure.
yeah. I only saw the very beginning where he like built his own boat and then like started pillaging on his own and then overthrew some stuff and became a badass. And then I didn't really watch much after that, but
Yeah, it's definitely. I feel like those kind of shows are definitely. You got to binge them. You got to sit down if you have the time and watch 3, 4, 5 episodes in a row to kind of get everything started.
So you got to be even to win. And not to say this is the total talk track here, but to win tech or to win the way that prize that you won at the Total Archery Challenge. Obviously, a blind squirrel can find a nut, but I'm not winning that prize. I'm not hitting that that small of a target at 111 yards or whatever it is. Are you pretty good with a bow?
definitely not when you only break the bow out come September.
I got to live true to my name over here as the OKS hunter.
Yeah, there's
We all
a
got a
fine
place
line
in
you
the
got to
world.
tread there, though, too.
No, to your point, I'm super humble about everything dealing with that. Blessed that my buddy paid for it. I like to shoot. I go out. I'm fortunate that the local range is actually only about 20, 25 minutes from my house. They intermixed a disc golf and archery range, which hasn't gotten hairy yet, but one of the disc golf holes is up a hillside, and it just so happens to be in line with a 47-yard bison shot. And so if you actually walk back up to the top of the hill and shoot at the bison, it's like 107 yards.
Okay.
And so, I was able to get practice that way. And the long range shots are just super interesting to me. Being able to shoot, put your bow down, and still see the arrow flight. It's something that kind of gets me excited from that standpoint. And that's kind of how that whole thing happened. I shot course as well. We actually came off the prime course, which is the 80 to 120 yard course. My buddy said I was shooting well. We were over at the novelty shots, just chit chatting with everybody. Once again, great event. And then all at once, my buddy came over and he says, "Hey, you got to go shoot this. I shot it once. You go shoot it. You've been shooting well all day." And I was like, no, I'm going to stay on this novelty shot, which was $5. The truck shot is $15. And then he came back over once more and he says, "Well, too late. You have to go shoot it." And I go, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, I already paid for your ticket." So he paid the $15 for my ticket. I go up. There was a couple of guys. I don't know who they were, but they gave a huge piece of advice. And they go, "Hey, uphill 111 yards, the wind is actually kicking a little bit. Aim pocket of the kind of where the heart would be, but then aim 6 inches to the right and the wind will carry it over." So that I still remember that little piece made all the difference. Otherwise I would have shot back and would have been nowhere near it.
Interesting. I know last year, Greg and I seem to come together and do a couple shoots in the summer, whether it's an HHA USA event or now Anthony Heller with Deer Vein puts on a shoot.
Neither of which we'll be making this year.
Oh, I don't know about you. I think I'm going to go to Anthony's.
You should have registered already.
Oh, there's room. He'll take us. Cash on site, cash on hand.
Okay. News to me. He messaged me and asked if we were going. I'm like, I don't know. Nobody said a word.
I told him, I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? But nonetheless, we did it last year, and Greg had his famous poke and hope shot where it was hotter than hell. His glasses are fogged up. It's an uphill shot, one of the more tumultuous ones I think that was there. And
that was a pretty steep angle.
I think you just decided to give her. And
thick in there.
That was the only one I think you really missed. And you did find the arrow.
Oh, yeah. I glanced it right off the top of the target, and it went piling through some brush and ripped a few veins off, but I found it.
Yeah. And I'd be afraid of shooting shots that long, like the HHA one where I, whiffed on that, whatever that was, an elk or moose, something large. And it stuck in a tree. So we found my arrow, but I don't know if we got it out or not.
We got the arrow out, but the field point.
Oh yeah, we had to retool it up on the end there. But I would be afraid to lose arrows in the sense of I just have to afford more, and they're not cheap, and I'd be.
Oh yeah, no, that's the hardest thing. I see some of these guys coming to Total Archery Challenge with 2.5 dozen arrows, and I'm like, did you take out a second mortgage for that? But no, the Total Archery guys, I'm fortunate enough to have connected with some of the guys that set the courses up. Man, they're turds. And I'll go on record and I'll say they're turds. They intentionally put stuff to where if you miss, it's costing you arrows.
Small, miss small, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. So your kind of approach, as far as I understand it, to hunting, it aligns with our brand and ethos a little bit in the sense that I think you somewhere along the way had mentioned like you just take this I'm a sponge mentality and you're always learning.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, yeah, I was just wondering, like, what are some of the biggest learnings you've had that have made an impact on your hunting success, and talk about that mentality a little bit because I say most people seem to have that approach because if you learned it all, then you should probably give up. But some people are pretty. I think my wife, she's a teacher. The terminology is fixed mindset versus growth mindset. Either you're fixed in your ways and it is what it is, and that's that, or you're open to learning some new stuff along the way.
Well, fixed in the way sounds like my grandfather, but that's neither here nor there. No, my whole idea behind be a sponge and the sponge mentality is sponges absorb everything, right? And so, I've been fortunate enough and I, take measures to where I'm listening to all these different podcasts. I'm going to coming up is the Mobile Hunter Road Show, chatting and analyzing what the Seek One guys are doing, paying attention to what the Lone Wolf guys are doing, and so on and so forth. And even if I'm never plan on hunting the suburbs, I still want to watch their stuff because I feel like there's something to learn from what they're doing. Even if I never plan on quote unquote growing deer or putting food plots in, I still want to watch those companies and those individuals that are doing that stuff because, if they're putting out clover in this area and they're putting out corn in this area and they're talking about the deer patterns that they're seeing, I know that's going to help me because of the fact that one of my properties has maybe it has beans on one side, corn on the other side, and I can it helps predict the pattern and the movements and things like that. I'm fortunate enough to be friends with people who are, Sitka out all the way to sunglasses covers. And I'm fortunate enough to be friends with people who still hunt in their grandfather's flannels and everything in between. And the fact of the matter is, if you're killing big deer consistently, you're doing something right. And we should be looking at those individuals and picking apart what they're doing to hopefully gain some knowledge to help better us and better myself as a hunter moving forward. And so, the whole be a sponge mentality is, there's always something to learn from someone that is consistently killing big deer. Now, I also get the other side of it of, don't take advice from people that aren't doing what you want to be doing. And I get that aspect as well.
Sure. No, I think there's been, at what point, Greg, did you start kind of flipping that switch?
I haven't flipped the switch yet. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, mentally you did, though. At one point you decided to go deeper and further and start to think about things differently and start connecting dots. I don't like when you got back into hunting after all the four-wheeling escapades and stuff.
Yeah. The thought was always there because I had an uncle that was pretty hardcore into it. Like when we would go to the North Woods and deer hunt, it was always in the deepest and nastiest crap where we were away from people. Mm-hmm. So that mentality was never not there, I guess, from a teenager on. But I also, life got in the way, so I didn't follow through with a lot of it. So here we are
I don't know. I'm trying to think about
playing
like,
catch up.
yeah, somewhere along the way for me, it was seeing these other folks that were consistently putting down bigger deer, and I'm like, oh, well, how? Like, I just assumed like if I hunted long enough, at some point one of those things would just cross my path, and that would be the one chance I had, and I'd be like, cool, well then I have my big buck. Like, great. I didn't at some point when I was younger, I didn't consider that you could like go do that. I thought it was more of like the luck of the draw. I didn't think there was that much in my control. I think the one ingredient is mostly time in the woods and the compounding effect of knowledge that you gain from having that many encounters by putting that much time in the woods. That's what I think. But then there's all these other things, right? Like using water to separate yourself, really understanding the wind and so forth. And then you look at some of these folks and it's a chess match at some point, and you can get really good at the game. And some folks have.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like with everything that you said, like I said, I started at 15, 16. It wasn't really I'm 27 now. It wasn't really until about 2021 where I realized, looking at some of these other hunters, holy smokes, I'm behind the ball. Like, some of these kids were born and bred in hunting,
Yep.
and they've got an extra, even though they were kids, they've got an extra 10, 15 years knowledge built up. And I had the same mentality for a long time, which was, well, there's corn on this side, or like in Ohio, you can, it's legal to put corn out, so, well, if I sit over this corn pile long enough, something might walk by here, and so it's shifting that mentality and realizing, there is actually an art to hunting and tracking down bigger deer consistently. And so I just do everything I can to try to, learn from others and learn from those that are doing that.
So what have been some of your biggest takeaways? Like what are some of the biggest things you've learned from some of these other guys and gals that are quote unquote getting it done that way?
Oh man. One of the biggest things, and this is no offense to anybody if anybody's still doing this, but I absolutely was the guy that was packing in the kitchen sink and the fridge and the snacks and the drinks and the extra layers and all of that stuff. And then I got hooked up with I don't know if you guys know or have had on Jake Lishan. Jake Lishan, Jake Bush, Cody DeQuisto, some of those guys, and I'm seeing that they're carrying in like almost like a fanny pack style thing, and I'm realizing, oh my goodness, a lot of the stuff that I'm carrying in is completely unnecessary. I was fortunate enough to hunt Alabama with Jake, and we kind of picked apart my current setup. Fellas, I had unused brand new game bags, like out west game bags in my backpack, because I was one of those, well, you just never know kind of guys. So the less is more mentality, that's been a huge takeaway. And then also the wind aspect. I was that guy that was dousing in scent blocker, scent eliminator, using a doe estrus, doe urine drag as I'm walking in to cover my boots, and doing everything possible to smell like something else. And then realizing, yeah, you can still do some of that stuff, but the wind and the thermals are 90% of it. And I'm still to this day reading up and listening to any podcast covering thermals and wind, just to try to give me an extra leg up on what I'm chasing.
I think that was the biggest one for me when I started to have the aha moment around the wind, which seems like, wow, that should be pretty simple, right? The wind's doing this and that's that. But then you got to consider your access routes and exit routes. And then, if you have good ideas because you've done scouting and research, like Greg puts in a shit ton of time in the off season. He's in the woods all the time. The amount of pictures I get from him on a regular basis of like showing me deer fur in a bed and stuff like that. Like he knows with, to a good degree of like a reasonable doubt that the deer are bedding here. If you know that information and where they're feeding, and if it's a morning hunt, they're going to be coming back from feeding to bedding. If it's an evening hunt, it's vice versa. Things like that. The wind is going to help you a whole bunch once you understand how that stuff all works together. And obviously, a deer is going to do what a deer is going to do. They're going to do deer things, and maybe they're not going to like follow your assumption at all. But by and large, they're going to use that. The wind can screw you if you're not playing it right. And you got to plan for the most common scenario based on those factors, I think. I'm waiting for Greg to chime in here because I'm not the fucking guy in the woods.
You're doing a good job. I don't need to really say much. You're kind of covering it all right now.
I'm not covering my scent good, am I?
Well,
no, you're exactly right. One of the biggest things for me too, and Greg, feel free to chime in with this, but one of the properties, honestly, my main property that I hunt has a huge tree line backed up to a creek bed. And it never clicked for me until just this past year that a lot of times, even if it's an unfavorable wind, my thermals still get swept down into that creek bed and get carried on down the river. And
it's amazing what water will do. Just the amount of pull that it has to even suck your scent towards it.
Yeah, let's put it this way. On the Ohio buck that I shot this year, I was sitting along that bed and along that tree line. Wasn't a bad wind, but it wasn't a great wind either. It was kind of one of those questionables. Well, if he walks here, I might be in trouble kind of winds. But I got, I think I counted it out. I think 70 yards from the bed that I was trying to get to. And sure enough, I don't know if I assumed the thermals just got swept down the river because he didn't really realize anything was going on and was able to connect, and all's well that ends well. But yeah, the thermal aspect and the water pull, like what you were saying, was crazy to me when I first learned it.
It's interesting though how much it can do to like help you. So the hunt that we've talked about a couple of times in here, where I called you and Derek, and you guys are on your way to Illinois, and I was like, "There's bucks everywhere," and it's crazy. Well, right before I had seen those bucks, a doe had come through, or I think a buck should have come through. So it could have worked out great if she was hot. Maybe a buck could have followed her like directly. She was, I don't know, 15 yards from me, and I had yet to go into the little blind that I made, so I was just kind of exposed. And she saw me, and she had to do the bob and weave, but the wind was in my favor 110%. So I didn't move. She never spooked. She never blew. She never stomped. Nothing. She just was like, looks like something's there, but I never moved, so she never confirmed it. And my scent wasn't in her direction whatsoever. It was like a predominant wind, completely opposite direction away from her. And I was good, and that gave me a lot of confidence that, oh, good. If a buck comes and I am concealed and I get my ass where I'm supposed to be here in the next, 2 seconds, I should be golden. And the bucks just, they were a little further away, and they came through like faster than I expected, going faster than I thought, and whatever. But just, it gave me a lot of confidence in that wind direction, if played correctly, can be really in your favor. And then you talk about like, that was a ground hunt because I didn't know where to put up in a tree, but then you get up in a tree and that does different things. So dropping the milkweed is a really great way to like, I'll drop milkweed every 15 minutes just because I have enough of it, and I really want to see what's going on. I need to keep reaffirming my brain, like, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. And as the temperature changes and the sun starts to set and it's starting to get dimmer, like the thermals start doing weird things, and you're like, oh, look at that. Now it's dropping this way. Mm-hmm. And that real-time intel is going to be better than any app you're going to have on your phone. And that app is going to give you that forecast of where you ought to be sitting, but then you got to test with boots on the ground because of things like creek bottoms and hill country and all that and other jazz. That guys that know what they're doing talk about well. That I understand it kind of, but I'm still learning like a sponge.
Now here's my question to you. What do you think? Do you think they work equally, or do you think one is better than the other between milkweed and the pre-made branded like chalk powder?
I'm a big fan of the milkweed because I can see that.
You can see where it carries a long way.
You can see it rise up and rise down with the thermal changes and the switches in wind direction. The powder's good for about 3 feet, and it's gone.
How many times have you seen the milkweed drop and you're like, shit, it should be doing that? And you're like, no. That's happened to me a lot, by the way.
Milkweed definitely seems to be kind of the favorite. I'm just always interested in asking people that because there's some people brand affiliated, not brand affiliated, that are like, you got to get the powder, you got to use the white whatever, the hunter specialty, whoever. But then I talk with you guys, I talk with my other buddies, and they're like, dude, if you just take a little seed of milkweed and just toss that up, you can see it for like 30, 40 yards as it's flying. And
natural. Easy to see. My kids love collecting it for me.
Yeah, I mean,
listen, I don't have that luxury yet.
we have a good abundance of it too. Like all my favorite places to go deer hunt, fortunately, have a pretty good population of milkweed plants, so it's readily available when I need it.
Yeah, my dad showed me that a long, long time ago, and then people show it like they invented it, or who cares, whatever. It's at some point you come into a learning curve or a learning stream, and you're like, at some point I didn't know that was a thing, and then I did. So there's someone out there right now that might be listening that says, oh, I didn't think of that. So as many people that do know, it's certainly not, we're not trying to patronize anybody, but
milkweed is no secret around here.
No, to most, but there's going to be the folks coming in that they don't even know what the hell we're talking about. Be curious to know how many people do use milkweed over the other stuff. And there's like newer products now that you mentioned as a chalk, but then there's like the vapor smoky.
Oh, I saw that.
Smokes out. I think to Greg's point, you get maybe a couple feet out of it, and you don't get the whole picture of it dropping and stuff like that.
Well, and like what we've been talking about this whole time is being a sponge and doing what those that consistently kill big deer do. I will say this, and I just made this realization. Every single person I know that consistently kills big deer uses milkweed. They don't use the synthetic stuff. They don't use the vapor stuff. They use the real thing. They go out, grab it, dry it, and stash it in a plastic baggie or something. But yeah, most of the guys I know that are killing 140, 150, 160 and up every single year, they're using milkweed. So I feel like that in itself, there's got to be something to it.
You probably just get a little bit more mileage out of it. To that point, it's not like, oh, if you use milkweed, you're going to kill big bucks. But that's what the products do, and across anything, right? If you use this product, you will kill big bucks. If you use this product, you will. I was using all sorts of new fandangled things, like you were talking about, like the tow rope with the doe estrus. I was using the wafers. I was spraying my boots with doe piss. As young, I didn't know. I thought that's what people did. I thought, oh man, I'm pretty smart. I'm spraying my boots with doe piss, and I actually, to this day, like I just at this point, that's probably not a great idea, right?
My cousin who got me into hunting, his good buddy Cody had the worst possible thing happen to him, and he sprayed his boots with doe urine and was walking in trying to get to his stand, and a buck caught that scent and cut him off, and he just kind of stood there, and he said it was like worse than being face to face with coyotes, is what he said, was having a good shooter buck staring you down thinking that you're a female deer.
Well, that's awkward.
So yeah, he says don't do that. So I don't do that anymore.
That's funny. And then the other component here of in addition to the sponge aspect, was just kind of to keep moving forward and keep rolling with stuff. And you're younger than us by a bit. I think by at least 10 years by me. I'm 36, you said you're 27, so 9 years, whatever. That keep moving forward. That is a good mentality. You're going to have ebbs and flows. You're going to have good years, bad years, good seasons, bad seasons, highs and lows, like maybe incredibly good or terribly bad, for whatever reasons. Like Greg, last year you had a hernia, like that impacted a little bit of what you could do. You were like not happy about it, but it is what it is. And
look, the best of it.
Now this year we're probably in better shape to do a hunt, And you still got to dump.
Recovered well, man. Those are no joke.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot of fun, but I got it taken care of, and now we're on the road to doing better things, hopefully.
No, that's awesome.
So talk about that. Like, is that from the business side, the hunting side, the life side? Probably all sides is the answer, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So I mean, the keep moving forward. That's kind of a mantra that I've had for years now, and I use it in life. I use it in business. I use it, with relationships and communication. I use it with hunting. It's the whole idea behind, no matter what happens, there's always something that I can do to better myself, to grow from something, to, do something today that the future me will be proud of. And the culmination of that, is not really, or I think culmination is the wrong word, but the gist of that is just that even in a terrible situation, right? You get into a stand and you think you've got it dialed, and your number one target buck walks in the complete wrong way and busts you and takes off. You know what? That sucks, and that gets you down, and your heart sinks, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? And a lot of people get caught up in, I got busted. I feel like not enough people focus on well, this buck came from this direction. That's another piece to the puzzle. Because I don't know about your guys' experience, but in my experience, I've found that one bust will not cause that deer to run 20, 30 miles the opposite direction. You definitely have to be way more careful moving forward, trying to hunt a certain deer or trying to hunt a certain property. But now you have that piece of the puzzle that is hopefully going to help you connect later on.
Yeah, I think we've had a couple guests on that have talked about that in the past. Zach Fehrenbaugh with the Hunting Public had, used a pretty good early season anecdote of that, where he scent bumped a buck, where it's like a really subtle nudge of letting your scent carry through enough that that deer gets wind of it, leaves, but then he got eyes on confirmation that, yep, there was a buck there. So then he went back the next day and killed it, because it wasn't so intrusive that buck's like, I gotta get the hell out of Dodge. It was like, I don't like what I'm smelling. I'm going to leave for a little bit and come back later. And he talked about the success story he had with that. And that was some of the first times I was hearing about scent bumping a deer and using that as a way to like get confirmation on things, because those guys are hunting so many public properties. They got to be able to get eyes on deer to know if it's going to be a good use of their time. Is that going to work for everybody? I don't know. Probably not. Can it be something you can try out? Sure. Why the hell not? I think, I don't know, at some point, I think it was with you, or maybe it was with my cousin when I went, we were trying to do that tactic a little bit and just be like, let's let our scent carry over and see what happens here. And if you have it positioned well enough too, if you have like two people in your party, you can try to like play that out a little bit differently too, if it's just yourself.
Well, most of the deer drives, when I would get together with a group during gun season, that's a lot of the ways we would approach an area was wind bump it rather than hooting
Wind
and
bump. Thank
hollering.
you. Yeah, I'm saying
Yep.
scent bump, but yeah.
The same thing. You're letting your scent carry through, and it should get a deer up. They're on alert, but they're not hauling ass out of there. They're trotting out of there, trying to find their way away from that scent trail.
Yeah, if you're like trudging through and breaking every branch, bush, and twig along the way and making a lot of hoopla, those deer are going to get up and they're running for their freaking life.
Yeah, they're running out early.
That's going to be, if you're doing a deer drive, that's going to be hard to shoot at, and it could be kind of dangerous in some cases. So I think the whole wind bump idea is interesting, especially for just getting eyes on. But again, these are tactics that you start to learn after you've been doing it for a while, and that might not be one that you're even ready to explore yet. The big one for me, other than wind, was like water, and just I was being a bit of a Nancy, and because I didn't know, I didn't like. At one point, I just decided I got to a peninsula. I wanted to get to another spot, and I just hiked right to the marsh. And that was a really great moment for me, like metaphorically and quite literally. I felt like I was crossing a threshold. And the area that I ended up getting to, I saw clusters of rubs. Is that called something? Didn't we discover this when we were scouting?
Wait, is there a scientific name for it?
I thought maybe. I could be completely wrong, but like a cluster of rubs where like there's so many, like it would indicate that, oh, this is a buck bed and there's just rubs. Freaking every tree is rubbed up.
Yeah, it's a rub line.
A rub line, but it wasn't a rub line. It was like different than that. It was like I guess I would call it a cluster. It could have been a rub line too, I suppose, but nonetheless, I was like, I had never seen anything like that before, and I did it on my own. That was a big thing. There was no one else out there with me. I wasn't getting taught. I was learning from my own experience, seeing this stuff, and I was like, holy shit. I could actually have a go at this. Like if these bucks were around, like I could actually kill one, you know? And then I took it up to another level, and I started bringing my waders. I started bringing my canoe. I started exploring new stuff, and that exploration, that adventure seeking, that uncharted territory kind of perspective, that was exciting for me, honestly, because then you're cracking open a new can of worms.
Dude, that's one of the coolest. Like, I don't. I mean, I'm sure it's been around forever, but it seems like it's just now getting kind of the spotlight put on it. But seeing people hunting with these kayaks, and you got to get to a different part, and using, hip waders and chest waders to get into this area that they're trying to find these deer. It's so cool to me to see how they're going in, why they're going in this way, why they're using a canoe or a kayak, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of the guys out in Pennsylvania, and then also Maryland. Nope, that's the wrong way. That way. The Sika deer behind me. That was actually a Maryland deer, and I've been watching a lot of what's their YouTube? In the Presence hunting. They do a ton of boat, kayak, canoe hunting, and seem to be having really good success. It's almost like the water is just this giant blanket that covers you, basically. And so it's been really, really cool to see how that's taken off in the couple of years.
Yeah, travel corridors by way of water, it covers your like. So last year, I hiked up a creek or whatever. I don't know. I could measure the distance, I suppose, but it felt like a long time. It could have been 2 miles or 3. It felt like 5. Maybe that's accurate. Maybe it's not. Someday I'll find the answer to that.
I'm surprised. I think it was only 1.5 miles.
But that was it. It covered us. And actually, it was funny because like the one thing we learned, we were doing the Huntland podcast a number of years ago. That was we were talking about oxbows. And what the hell's an oxbow? It's the Bend River. Well, do deer bed there?
Mention a hot button topic. Someone's going to be up our ass with a microscope.
Yeah. But we talked about it then, and lo and behold, I go down this creek, and not even 2 oxbows in, a doe pops up, and she was bedded right there. And I would have shot a doe happily, but she just, it didn't happen. I wasn't like frosty enough. I wasn't on my toes enough. I didn't expect that soon. And I was like, well, by gosh, this could actually work. So then from there on forward, I was, as quiet. You couldn't hear me. I was very, very quiet the whole way up, and I was taking my steps really, really slow, really calculated, making sure all things were there, thinking that around every bend, I was going to maybe see a buck in a bed in an oxbow. It didn't work out that way, but it could have, and I could have shot a deer from standing in the water. Trying to really play that out. So like scent control, visualization, sound control, it was a totally different game. Again, trying new stuff, mixing it up, getting creative with different things, and trying to see what could work for me. That could be all again bad if I got into a weird area where maybe the water was shoulder deep. That could be weird. You might have to get out and walk the land for a little bit or something. But nonetheless, you try and you learn, and you try and you learn, you try and you learn, and you keep moving forward.
Well, I mean, I was going to say that's the whole thing behind all of us. You guys having me on, and I'm super blessed that you guys wanted to even chat with me. But the whole aspect of we're always learning. Like at no point do I ever see myself ever saying, you know what, I got it dialed, I know it all. Like I almost feel like that's almost a hindrance, because then you're limiting what you can learn moving forward. Basically, there might be new tips, tricks, and tactics that come up 5 years from now that might be crucial to hunting success. But if you're closed off to it and you're not open to learning new things, you're going to completely miss that boat.
Yeah, and I gotta hope most people have that mentality, and we can always. Greg always says, "A nice serving, a humble pie, will keep you in the game." And boy, oh boy, Gregor, you were right. As soon as you get that confidence, something's going to knock you on your ass.
Yep, it always does.
I was going to say, unfortunately, my humble pie was 2020. I I tell everyone I come into contact with, 2020 was the best season that I never had. Basically, we had on one property. Okay, we just checked it a couple of days ago. On one property, 178 acres. Okay, there was 5 shooters over. We're guesstimating, and I've got pictures. I'll send it to you, Greg. I've got pictures. We had 5 shooters all over 150 and could not connect on a single one throughout 2020. And so, yeah, it was, the best season that never happened.
I call that the red zone, man. You can get in the red zone and that it just gets harder. It's hard to get there. Right. But once you're there, it's like the field shrinks and it's really freaking difficult. I don't have a better term for it.
I mean, I've had that happen too almost every year now probably since 2019, 2020. Get out and put my scouting in and set cameras and try to find a deer or two, find more than a deer or two, try to make a plan on it, get close to one, totally screw it up. I had 2 chances at the one particular deer twice in 2022, once in 2021. I don't even know if I would call that a chance, but it was just a little too late in the evening to make a shot on it. But it happens. You just keep moving forward, like you said.
Hey, there's a reason that's my mantra, because of the fact that even in crappy, crummy situations, there's always something to be learned from it. Fortunately, as crazy as it sounds, one of those deer in 2020, we dubbed him Scary Movie, and he was a shooter then. He evaded us last year too, and he is at the top of our hit list this coming year. So maybe there was a reason we didn't get a shot at him. I say we as in my brother, myself, and my cousin. Maybe there's a reason we didn't get a shot at him in 2020. Who knows what he's going to look like in 2022, and hopefully we'll be able to connect with him. Fortunately, I got a little bit more mobile this coming year, a lot more mobile this coming year. And I've actually got a camera on a couple of paths right now, just kind of soaking, letting it sit for the summer. But I believe it's the same hillside that he beds on, which if this camera shows that to be true, it's game on come opening day in September for Ohio.
Are you relying solely on just the camera to give you that intel?
So I've done a couple of shed missions throughout there. I've got some mineral out in a couple of different places. Those all have cameras on them as well. But this area, this hillside that we're talking about, it's notorious for, we're in a stand down by the river. This hillside is up by the road. And it's notorious for, we all get in those days when you're in the stand, right? You're looking at the twig, or the wind's blowing this leaf weird, or we just zone out. It's a notorious area where you look up and all of a sudden he's just standing there, and not sure where he came from, not sure how he got there, but he's just there. And he's always sitting at the base of this hillside. And the only thing I can think of is that he's using the hillside, which is covered in trees, right? So I hunt, it's usually a farm field. My property is set aside, just tall CRP grass, and then ag. So it's a lot of like cross paths, basically. And, I'm convinced that he's using that those trees to his advantage, and coming down through and dropping into that CRP. And that's why we don't really see him out and about walking around, and then he's just kind of there.
Is that the leeward side of the hill then?
For
the predominant wind in the area?
Yes. Yeah. So
And you can see down into that CRP from the hill.
yes. Yep.
Well, that's where he's bedded.
That well, we're this is year 3 or 4 chasing this deer, but the hard part is I don't have permission on the ag sides, and so I can't. I've asked to shed hunt. I've asked to, I've asked to bow hunt. And they want nothing to do with it around the area. And on multiple occasions, he's dropped in, just like how we were talking about. And I am 100% convinced he is bedding on this hillside right behind the neighbor's house. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like deer know where their quote unquote safe spaces are, and big deer will hug those as much as possible.
Till that neighbor lets their dog out and he wanders that part of the woods, and then that
Mhm.
Yep.
It's interesting. We've had Bill with Spartan Forge on a couple of times, and we kind of ask him for like, what are the myth busters that the data has informed you, because they have millions of data points, so they can see. And one of some of the things he talked about at some point was like, some of these bucks don't even participate in the rut, or they occupy this hillside, they never leave it, or it's such a small area that these tracking collars where they've tracked these deer over several seasons, this is what they do, and they can see when they move or when they don't and all that stuff. And it's almost like a blind spot where they sit sometimes, where they know, kind of like you said, they're safe zone, or it's a blind spot of they're just in the area where you're not going to see them, or they're not going to be caught, or they're not going to be out breeding does until they know it's safe.
Well, and two, with
crazy
with the onslaught of everybody, knows to go deeper now. It's an overlooked spot in some cases too.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, people are like, I'm not going to interest myself in that.
We've experienced
here.
that. I mean,
yeah,
look,
yeah, absolutely.
Put you right on the one you shot over the 1 year, and it was an overlooked spot that nobody would ever think to hunt there.
Yep.
Well, yeah,
and it happened. He came out right before the sun going down, and the last light kind of moment. I was like, okay, I'm about to get down soon. Nothing's happening. All of a sudden I look, I'm like, oh shit, there's a deer. Oh, it's a buck. It's a good buck. Oh, he's coming my way. I have an opportunity. I missed.
No, yeah. I mean, 2 points with that. First, I actually don't have a Spartan Forge subscription, but chatted with Bill, chatted with the Seek One guys, now talking with you guys. The Lambda map, where you can change the date and see what the leaves are doing on the trees and what the area looks like on November 7th as opposed to May 31st. Like, that's absolutely incredible. So that aspect of the e-scouting community, that's huge.
When I hunted PA,
do what?
Those guys, when I hunted PA last year with those guys, Johnny Stewart literally showed me precisely which tree to hunt out of, and I could see it on the map. I could see it on Spartan Forge. He's like, "This is the tree. This is the one." And I got to there, and I was like, "This is the tree. This is the one." It was crazy,
dude. It's nuts because when it's May, June, July, everything is covered with leaves. You get to November, there might be a 30-yard funnel where it's just complete open pasture, but because the branches of the overhanging trees cover it during the summer, you would never see it. So yeah, that single feature is insane to me. And then the other aspect in terms of, we were talking about go deeper. Alabama, dude, I got a real quick, what were we talking? Humble pie, as you guys were saying earlier. We got to this piece of public land, and we got walk-on access to walk through a yard to be able to get to this specific public land. And we're trying to push, and we can see where the state had a food plot, and we were just pushing further. And it wasn't until day 3 that we realized that most people don't have walk-on access. They're accessing this property by boat and kayak. So we were actually playing the entire property backwards. Most of the deer, including the 2 target bucks that we finally found and caught up with, were sitting right behind people's houses because that was the furthest from the water. And so it's funny the whole you got to get in there, you got to go super deep mentality, and seeing how that plays out in real life scenarios.
Deer are the best at pulling an audible.
You ain't lying.
They got real time information right there on the ground, and they can figure it out and interpret it with their nose.
It's crazy, dude. Like, I don't know. There's no more original thoughts left in the world, I don't think, or very few, if any.
I agree.
And, and to that same point, like anything you're thinking you're going to do that's the most badass or most unique thing, someone is doing that. Even where you're considering doing that, that's probably happening, and that's not bad. That's fine. That it doesn't mean that person's accessing at the same time of the season, same time of day, same time of year, whatever as you are. And if they are, then maybe some confirmation and kudos for you for like thinking of some really good shit. But that's not to say that that's working for that person either. Just because you see another stand, Cody DeQuisto talked about this when we had him on a while back, where he said, "Look, just because I see another stand or two, doesn't mean I shouldn't hunt there. Maybe it means I should, and maybe I'll just think about it a little bit differently. Or maybe they're not there right now, and right now is the time that deer is going to be there because maybe he has different intel. Certain things aren't always inherently bad or good. It's just a matter of what's going on in the moment. And just because you saw a deer at this place this one year and this other year doesn't mean they're going to be there this next year because the crops may have changed or the acorns aren't dropping. You have to look at a holistic picture and really zoom out a bunch before you start to consider things like that. And I'll be the first to admit I'm all about I saw a big deer here once, guess where I'm going again, because it should only be a matter of time before that happens to me again. But that was before I ever considered all those other factors. In fact, when I gun hunt, the reason I hunted the spot I hunted for so many years is because I saw a big deer there and I killed deer there. And now it's just kind of like, well, that's the spot that I go to. That's not the spot where I found the shed that's on my coffee bar. That's not the spot where we saw those giant rubs.
Right.
So as you gain more intel, you kind of have to push yourself out of your comfort zone to act on it. Sometimes people see this intel and they don't know what to do with it. Well, that's all great, but that means there's one in the area. So I'll still sit in this other spot that I know, and that's okay too. Again, whatever kind of floats your boat, it's fine. But if you have different goals, and you got to do different things.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%, especially on the fact that there are no original thoughts, whatever you're thinking about doing that's been done before, which a lot of people will get, up in arms about it. Like, what do you mean? This is a great idea. This is my idea. And in reality, maybe so-and-so 10 years ago or 5 years ago or last year did this same thing and ended up shooting a, 170, 180, just complete freaking stud. Maybe you should take a page out of his book and do things the way that he's doing it,
Or you get a piece of property like what he's got and with that kind of quality of deer that they've got.
Yeah. And, people, you and I sitting here talking about how there's no, quote unquote, no original thoughts anymore. That we're not saying that in a negative manner. Hunting has been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. People have had success year in and year out. That's the whole concept behind be a sponge, behind keep moving forward. It's always learning, always progressing, follow. If you want to hunt exactly how Chris B hunts, then you should probably watch and imitate and emulate what he's doing. Obviously, find your own property to go and practice that on. But, a lot of people are upset at the YouTube era of hunting, the social media era of hunting. But in reality, that's giving us the most information we've ever had as hunters. Back in the day, growing up, the only way we got info as hunters was if we went and bought a DVD. Now there's people that are posting different shows and hunts and things like that all throughout the year where we can just learn 24/7, 365.
Yeah, no, a lot of these topics that we're talking about, like people have heard them and they've heard them a lot. There's a lot of podcasts that discuss these topics that talk to the guests that you mentioned. These people run circuits. They're on shows often. It's, and then people get kind of good at certain things, and that's the things that they talk about. And that's not a slam on any of that stuff. It's just to say that, this knowledge is easier to come by and people are applying it, which is great. It's exciting.
There's good advice out
Yep.
there, and the people that have had success with the good advice are going to keep talking about it.
Yep, 100%. And it's great of them to be willing to share that kind of information, whether it's to get them more sponsors or to be helpful. Maybe it's a little bit of both. And some of these guys that maybe they know it all, maybe they need a piece of humble pie to like kind of reset them a little bit, get them back to neutral. That they're not God's gift to deer hunting or whatever. At the end of the day, it's hunting. It's for everybody. And I think you're sponsored by Bear, and their mission is to get a bow in everyone's hand. And like, there's nothing. I think that's a great mission.
It's a great
want
mission
more
to be able to pull it, pay it forward all the time.
Yeah, listen, there was hunters before us. There's hunters now in the present, and I got news for you. When we're long gone, there's going to be hunters after us too. And so I see it as our job. One, let's shoot some deer. Let's get some meat on the table, put some meat in the freezer, things like that. But two, let's make sure that more and more people are getting into it. You had mentioned Bear and their mission to get a bow in everyone's hands. I love it when people come to me and they ask me things about, hey, I'm thinking about getting into archery. I'm thinking about getting into the outdoors. What's the first step? Like, that initial question is huge. And being able to send them to different outlets, different resources, and just get them excited about it. I want more, there's some people that say there's too many hunters now. I understand the argument, but I want to see more and more people.
I'm going to interrupt you quick. I think those are the guys that are used to having it good and doing the same thing over and over and over again and having success at it. And now somebody's throwing them a curveball and it's messed up their whole line of success.
Yeah, and to that point, like, good is relative, because maybe it's really good right now and we don't even know it, because if it goes away, it's going to be really bad. So even though it's like really great for you, 15 years ago, that doesn't mean it could be worse at some point. So again, the world changes. You got to change with it.
Yeah.
And like Greg's shirt from Doug Duran, it's not ours. It's just our turn.
Yep.
I talked to Doug the other day for like
Wait
an
a
hour.
second. Give the zoom in on Greg. Greg, let me see that shirt.
There it is, Greg. It'll pop up on the screen.
There we go.
I think you're on this one. There.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. No, I agree 100%. It's not ours, just like all the legal battles going on right now. And this is completely separate in the weeds topic, but all the legal battles going on right now with the public lands and being able to access and the walk on and the fence hopping and all of that stuff. Like, we need to preserve as much of that as we possibly can. I want to be able to make sure that my grandchildren are able to, go out and hunt. I'm sure you guys want your kids to be able to go out and hunt.
Yeah, and we're not going to get there by, being jackasses to one another. And that's not the right example to be setting anyways. So, yeah, it's we talk about this stuff all the time. It's definitely a theme that runs through the vein of our show, and the thread, the vein. I don't know. Vein sounds like pretty kind of gross there.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the name kind of stems from those people that are judgmental towards others, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to pull out a string that's aiming at the broader demographic of hunters. Where most of us are okayest hunters. We're okay at this stuff. Try to take yourself too seriously, and not to say that you can't be an expert hunter, but even those guys have their moments, and we've talked to them about it. We've had them share their moments where they trying to think. Like, man, my brain is mush, guys, because I'm like still not 100% with it.
We talked about it off air, but you've had a busy week, to say the least.
I'm catching up here in my thoughts, but a number of people we've had on the show that have shared their moments of running through the woods because they were totally lost and they didn't want to admit it. So they like ran a total roundabout way and exacerbated themselves, sweating, dripping wet, because they didn't want their friends to think they got lost. But they're like, well, that was an okayest moment. And actually, that was most of the okayest moment, was the people getting turned around in the woods. That happens to a lot of us.
I've been walking through CRP and have got lost. Okay, so
you get lost in that stuff when it's over your head.
Hip flexors are killing you. You're like stepping on these little mounds, and next thing you know, you're turned around the total opposite direction.
I was gonna say, does that mean I get to share an okayest moment?
Everybody is allowed to share at least one.
Yeah, let's hear it, man.
All right. Well, so this is, I mean, my cousin that got me into hunting doesn't even know, and I'm kind of hoping he doesn't listen to this podcast. But so my okayest moment came in 2020. That deer that we were talking about earlier, dubbed Scary Movie. It was probably 10 minutes before end of shooting light. And it was I'll give it this, it was a cold evening. Okay. One of those like temperature drops 20 degrees in 15 minutes kind of evenings. But Scary Movie comes walking in from my east, coming through, walking like a 2-track path. And he is 7 yards below me. I go to draw my bow back and can't get to the valley of the bow. And just like, no matter what, I drew back, stopped, saw him. He had no idea what was going on, took a big deep breath, tried to draw back again, did one of those kind of shake motions with the arm and couldn't get it back and had to sit and watch him walk on. So that, I mean,
what happened? Buck fever? Like what? Why couldn't you jump back? Was there something impeding your ability?
The only thing I can think of is 1, buck fever, 2, it was cold, 3, maybe clothing. But I mean, there's really no good or logical excuse as to, well, AJ, why couldn't you get your bow back? I mean, you know, I drew 72 pounds then. I'm drawing 72 pounds now. Drew 72 pounds in 2021. Like, your guys' guess is as good as mine, and that is my okayest moment that will haunt me until the day I die, unless I connect with him this year.
He's like an old man with ED.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Hey, you leave those old men alone.
Jeez, you wonder like if it's worth. What is your poundage on your bow, Greg?
It's 70, 72, whatever that Matthews tops out at.
You got no problem pulling it back like butter?
No, I don't. Luckily, my shoulders are still in good enough shape.
Sure. Yeah, it's better than my moment of just straight up. I don't know.
I don't think I'd want to pull any more than that. I mean, I don't see a point to it.
Yeah, I just feel like the more, if you start taking it to some extreme level, I don't know if the exchange is in your favor then.
I know, like, when I did a lot of cold weather bow hunting, I'd run my bow down to like 65 pounds. Even that 5 pounds less, it was so much easier to pull back, especially when you've been sitting there shivering like a dog shitting fish hooks, and you get a deer come up and surprise you, then your heart starts pumping, you warm up quick. But it's just a lot nicer pulling 5 pounds less. And usually when they come in, they picked you off from a long ways away, or you've actually done something right and they're right close and in your lap anyway. So 70 pounds isn't going to make a shit bit of difference when they're right underneath you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I feel about it. The less I can
when you're practicing, are you practicing at 72 and then, like, you know, hunting out of state or something like that, it's middle of December or whatever, then you drop it down to 65? How much of a recalibration do you have to do with your sight and with your arrow setup and things like that to then get it working?
That's a good technical question. So
I don't know if I'd want to change it, because then when that changes the trajectory of your arrow
at that point, I think I would shoot at 70 all summer long, and then into fall when it was warm, I was shooting 70 pounds, and then I just decided that at one point in time I would drop it down in wintertime, just because it was easier to pull with all the clothes on it, with all my clothes on.
Yeah.
So I don't recall ever messing with my sight, because typically I would keep it 20 yards and in. I wasn't taking long shots. I just wasn't. The areas I had, that's pretty much what I had for distance anyways. I could probably squeeze off a 25-yard shot. And at that point, the air is so crisp and things are so quiet, deer are reacting pretty quick. It's kind of tough to really want to take a shot when it's further out. I don't know, everybody's comfortability level is different. That was
Right.
my thing. It's like, okay, if it's 20 yards and then I'm going to take a shot.
I think the comfort thing is critical.
Mhm.
You don't need to
Where's your
do what you're
confidence
seeing
at?
other people do. You need to do what
Yeah.
you need to do.
Wherever your confidence is at. I'm not Chris B. I'm not any big time archer. I'm me, and I'm going to do what I know I can do. And if you want to shit on me for it, go ahead. Where's your deer at?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't understand that. The whole cannibalizing each other. I don't get it. They're cool. There's people out there that are shooting animals at 65, 70, 80 yards with a bow. That's awesome. There's also people that are
Well,
shooting.
don't worry, those guys get shit on too. I can't believe you take a shot like that.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what you do.
From both
Yeah,
ends.
yeah.
Morning to someone, they're
And
like, "How the hell do
hopefully-
you know it's a good morning?" You son
And
of a
hopefully
bitch.
most of it's
Yeah.
more so in fun
Yeah.
than it is, just to be a jerk.
And among friends, I think that stuff flies pretty well
All the time.
It's the people that you don't know that are not in your circle that are going to say backhanded shit. That's like, come on, dude, back off.
Yeah,
You don't.
it's literally the internet randos is what I call them. I just call them randos. It's people that you will never meet, you'll never talk to again. But by gosh, they feel important if they're able to critique whatever it is that you're doing.
And it's sad that has to weigh on anybody's mind either, because those comments do stick out and they do weigh in when they really shouldn't. But that's easier said than done for some. So,
Right.
We just come with kindness. If you're running into that stuff, tag us and we'll bury them with positive.
That's one of my favorite things. So I just recently, it was the first time from a hunting perspective. Just recently got some hate, and I take it as kind of a point of pride, but got some hate and ended up on one of the anti-hunter meme pages or whatever.
Yeah,
And do what?
When it's out of our industry, that's interesting. Anti-hunter stuff. That's a whole different world, man.
Well, no. So not it's it was a hunting meme page.
Got it.
Prided itself on
talking hunters,
showcasing the bad things of hunting or whatever. But it was hilarious because I take that same approach and I'm like, so they posted me for whatever, and I said, well, okay, so you posted me because of this. Why did you do that? What did you think I was doing wrong? Just playing dumb, basically. And they said, well, it looks weird, and if you post stupid shit, it's gonna end up on my page. Word for word. That was their reason.
They had no good recourse for it other than you just post something that looks stupid to us, and we're gonna make you famous for it.
Yeah, and I even told him too. I was like, if you would just ask me, I could give you the 12 reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'll tell you guys. It was and people can think what they want. I don't care. I'm gonna sleep well regardless. I'm this coming year, I'm going to run a lone wolf 0.5 stand. So the smallest stand that they make with a saddle.
Sure, you're going to go do what Jake Bush does.
We've chatted before. We live 45 minutes from each other. I've seen how he operates. I know how I'm going to operate. We do some tweaking and some nuances separate from each other. But I posted do what?
You got to make it your own.
Yeah. What works for someone might be a good baseline for someone else, but it's not going to be like the finish.
Not the end all.
Yeah, it's not going to be the finishing point. Me copying exactly what you guys do here on my Ohio property
would be a good idea for the record.
Yeah. If you want to not kill deer, don't do it.
Yeah, go on.
But it might not be, it might not be the smartest move to copy someone verbatim, word for word, whatever. But the gist of it was that I've got a plethora of reasonings as to why I'm going to run the 0.5, actually with a latitude method too. And this individual wanted nothing to do with it. They were just like, nope, it's weird. When you post stupid shit, I'm going to repost it and my fans are going to send it to me. And I'm like, all right, sounds good. I hope I can give you more credit or more content later on, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, that's not too far from I'm running my stuff. For the record, I'm running a lone wolf saddle platform, and I'm running a Method 2 saddle, and
Yeah.
and it works for me right now, and I'm happy with it. It's great. I'm comfortable. Can change positions as I get uncomfortable. I can readjust. The saddle's big, or not the saddle. The platform's big enough.
Yeah, it's the big one.
I ran it with just a stick, the double wide stick, as a quick run and go for an afternoon hunt for an all day sit. I did the morning with the platform. I did the afternoon with the stick, and it worked, but it was not comfortable. In contrast to that big platform. And so now I know. I was like, okay, if I need to get in somewhere to pinch and I don't want to carry the stuff and it's like whatever, I can be quicker and quieter and la la la. Cool. But I know that I will not be very comfortable and I will be limited on my shots in contrast to running that platform. But it was cool to experiment and try it out. And I just did what I did. And
once again, that's a whole nother thing behind the whole learning aspect. It's so funny because there's some hunts that you had to work late, but you were planning on hunting. So you're going to get down there and you might have 2 hours till dark. There's other hunts there's other hunts that you've called the babysitter the night before. The babysitter's going to be there at 4 a.m. and you're going to get out there and you're going to sit from daybreak until dusk till dawn, or what is that? Dawn till dusk if you're sitting all day. And all of those require different things, And so it's so funny once again to hear people say like, no, this is the end all be all. You have to hunt this way. Otherwise you don't know what you're doing. And it makes me laugh, honestly.
That's the person that owned a Chevy their whole entire life says, well, you have to drive a Chevy. Well, there's also
you're exactly right.
and a Nissan and a Dodge and a Ford. There's like however many other options are there. And maybe I don't even need a truck. Maybe I need a freaking car.
Wait a second.
I need a moped. Like, what do you know about my situation, right? But no, you need to drive this one. All right, pal. Well, you can drive yours and I'll drive mine. And maybe if I need to drive yours, like that'll work too. It really just depends. People forget that we live in a giant country and everyone's in different areas doing different things with different stuff and different perspectives and different upbringings and different everything.
With freaking freaking laser beams to their freaking heads.
And mind you, whitetails are in how many different states with different temperatures, with different backgrounds and different ecosystems and environments and stuff like that. Someone hunting
ultimate survivor.
Yeah. Someone hunting whitetails in Maryland is not going to be able to implement those tactics hunting whitetails in Nebraska, And it's just like to hear someone be like, this is it. This is the end all be all. You're not going to need to buy another product after this one because we've got it. And it's like, we know there's going to be another product that comes out next year or another tip or another trick or another tactic. And so it's so funny to see people get caught up in, you have to do it this way.
Yep. And that's depending on your goals. If your goals are even to kill a mature whitetail, maybe your goal is to build a freezer, which is kind of about where I'm at right now. I would love a mature whitetail. Of course I would. Is that realistic for me? I don't know. Probably not right now. So I got to make peace with that and do what I can.
I was going to say, with the way things are going, I think everyone's goal should be build a freezer, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. I'll go with my freezer and I'll do a video of that and we can talk about what my goals are going to be this year. Hey, dude, thanks for joining us live tonight. Where do we send people to find you, check out your stuff, your coffee, all the things you have going on? Where do you recommend folks go?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the easiest and the most active that I'm on is Instagram, which is just _Coffee Viking. Love interacting with people, love chatting with people. Hopefully people got some useful information out of this podcast. That's my biggest takeaway anytime I do any sort of podcast or anything like that. I hope it was beneficial to someone, and so _Coffee Viking. If you feel like spelling my name out on Facebook, I'm AJ Kazmierczak. And I've avoided it for so long, but there might or might not be a YouTube in the works, but that's not up yet.
Those things take time, man. That's a big endeavor.
So man.
Keep an eye out for it.
No, I appreciate you guys. Seriously, what you guys do for the hunting community, man, it is incredible. You know, letting people know, shoot your shot, do what you got to do. You know, chase your goals. I love everything you guys stand for.
Appreciate that, man.
Thank you.
Thanks a bunch. And it was real nice to have you on. It's good to get the perspective. I think there's definitely some value that folks can get from this episode. So we're going to end the live broadcast. Folks that tuned in live, thanks for the comments. Thanks for following along. And we'll see you next week. And this will be live in podcast land tonight.
See ya.